deep, dreamy states. Well, in those earlier states, particularly alpha, we are so receptive. Our brain and our mind, in particular, our subconscious mind, is incredibly receptive. So when we start our morning with very specific intentional practices, affirmations, prayers, whatever it may be for the individual, this is how we actually pinpoint our point of magnetic attraction to save our experience for the day. And then, well, we have all these what seem like miracles, all these synchronicities that start to line up where, wow, is this really a way that I can operate in my day-to-day life consistently? Well, it is.
Yeah,
and that's
the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned that you were having just recently that conversation about how do we create our highest life when all of these things feels like attacking us, right, from all directions. And you mentioned that it's an invitation, right? Everything is an invitation. And also what you were just talking about with the setting it's really setting up your day, right? By taking control of how you start your morning. What came to mind when you were talking about that was that's boundaries. That's boundaries on what I'm consuming. That's boundaries on myself for what I will allow myself to do and not do. And so if we start to think about the world in that way, where I don't have to participate in every invitation that I get, right? And I can put boundaries around anywhere in my life that I want to, but I have that freedom. I have that choice. That is something that I can control. And the boundaries extend to our mind. It extends to what we want to focus on. It extends to, what we want to consume, or even what we want replaying in our mind all day, right? Do we want to start our day with bombardment of negative news, or do we want to start our day a little bit easier and gradual, deciding how we want our day to go? And I know from my own experience in doing that, and I've had many methods of way I've done this, through journaling, through just in my mind, just making the decision to set my intention. That is a completely different life to live. When you set those boundaries and you reject invitations that are not in your highest good, that is a completely different way to live.
Absolutely. Because that way you are, I was an athlete when I was younger, played basketball, did a lot of basketball, but in particular. So it's like being on the offensive versus being
right.
And so I also think there's this incredible misnomer that we have about, we're these physical beings are trying to define, to determine, to prove our spiritual existence, right? Our spiritual union. I think that's completely inaccurate. I think we are these vast spiritual beings that have chosen the limitation of this physical container to come into this life and master the game of life and learn how to create one beyond limitation. And so from that perspective, if we look at life and we look at creation, right? And we think, well, everything in life is creation. Everything in creation is co-creation, even how you and I got to be here, right? The co-creative efforts of our parentage.
Right.
And co-creation is invitational. And it's invitational from our perspective because we are empowered as creator beings to cultivate our chosen experience of reality. So if I find that my life I am empowered to be invitational about it, well, then we have to acknowledge that we are surrounded by incredible forces of benevolence and that the universe, contrary to what we may believe, even at a subconscious level, it really does have our back, really is offering us the very pinnacle, the highest experience of our life that is possible through all forms of abundance and joy, synchronicity. And yet the aspect of invitation is imperative because we have to call it in. We have to in the morning, okay, so I am aligning for the most benevolent outcome of my day in each and every unfoldment, in each and every creation, in each and every conversation. And I call forth all of my benevolent allies, cosmic and earthly, to bless me, me to open those opportunities of connection, of inspiration, of abundance, of prosperity, of resources, of greater joy and vitality in my life. And the moment that we do that is the moment that we completely understand that we're not victims. We never have been.
Right. It's all been in our hands. Yeah, it's been in our hands the whole time. And you mentioned synchronicity a couple of times. And what I have found in my own life, and something I actually started doing recently, was I've actually started writing down the synchronicities that come up every day. That is a very interesting exercise to start to notice patterns, to start to see, if you're feeling a particular way, or if you're, whatever it might be in your own experience, and being able to invite synchronicities in, invite those on our behalf to come in and work with us in this world. When we slow down enough to pay attention to those synchronicities, we start to see that it's more than just, oh, well, that's cool, that happened, or wow, that's a coincidence, right? You start to see there's a bigger picture there. But unless we slow down to pay attention to that, because I even struggled with writing these down. I would think, oh, I'll do it later, and then I would forget, or I would never write it down. And so being able to, I think, slow down enough to start to pay attention to these things like synchronicities, or your particular emotions that you're feeling, or the boundaries that you may or may not have, or the invitations that you are or aren't accepting. That awareness of that will go, I think, that will go so far, because you've done the hardest part. You slowed your mind down enough to start to pay attention and listen. So and it's such an amazing, you start to see these things that you couldn't see if you didn't slow down and pay attention enough to, and pay attention to them.
I think that's so true, because what happens is it creates a stepping stone effect, right? And each moment that we acknowledge even the smallest synchronicity or magical moment, or what is a seeming miracle, the more that increases our vibrational magnetic point of attraction for greater similar experiences. And the more that we're able to trust ourselves. So for me, in my process, one of the things that I teach often is on psychic development. Well, how can I teach on that? How can we teach on anything until we have embodied the teaching to some degree within us? Right. And so I've noticed for me in particular is the more that I acknowledge these synchronistic events, the more that I begin to trust my judgment, right? Yes. And for me, so I'm a dream creator. Well, this dream creator being aspect of myself didn't really come online until I could start to trust myself more deeply through the exact experiences that you're talking about. And so, for example, we've just launched our Adora Alchemy Quantum Community Library. And so this is one of those things that came to me through dream time, is how can we, because we're all now busier than ever, and we're at this pinnacle of mood-based discontent, global, collective. And so, and then the pressure keeps increasing, the chaos keeps increasing, and opportunities for discontent, disharmony are around us everywhere. So how can I, as a leader in my field and someone who is passionate about my work of elevating consciousness on the planet for all of humanity, how can I contribute in a way that is true service? So I started to get these dreams of this library to be for someone like myself who loves books. Well, when I want information, how convenient is it to have to go to 10 different books? Right. Or, I'll just look at that website or that social media site. But we all know that makes a whole rabbit hole of time. And then an hour later, and you're not even really sure what you're doing. Exactly. On information that you were searching for to begin with. So for me, that listening and really honoring that intuition is how the library was formed, as a way to offer all seekers, wherever you are in your path of spiritual awakening, of transformation, of self-mastery, wherever you are in the world, a way that you can honor your most precious commodity, which is your time and energy.
Yeah.
and have one place. So my team and I created these beautiful images and 4 pillars of meditation alchemy, essential oil alchemy, crystal alchemy, and practical alchemy, which are like 4 primary tools that anyone can use. And many of them you can use anywhere, right? Because they do very practical, accessible, consumable tools and techniques to transform and elevate your vantage point of reality, of experience, of emotion, of thinking, right? Of your belief system. And so, so this has been a really fun project to pull together and then to be able to offer. Now, even though there's 3 different membership tiers, depending on how much and when you want to have the curated meditations and alchemy and practical alchemy and information on essential oils brought right to your site that you log into, or if you want to just join the All Seekers free membership library, it's all in one place. And so I think when we're really looking at how can I optimize my tools for transformation, my interventions, and make my life easier, like, to me, this is one of the most easeful ways to do that and offer that came through my own process of listening and honoring those little synchronicities that start to happen when we call in our highest experience and expression of life.
Yeah. And that what you were talking about with that trust factor is so big, because it's easy when we're maybe starting out with this kind of work, or maybe we've been back and forth with it. It's easy to feel like I'm just making this up, or I'm just, these thoughts aren't real, right? Or this, oh, that's not a big deal that this synchronicity happened, right? But they're all big deals, and you're not making it up, right? It's developing that confidence within yourself and being able to have the right tools to do that, like you said, because once you keep doing this kind of work and you start to pull in, and as I said earlier, it's a different life, because you're pulling from a different place, right? You're not pulling from the energy of fear and anxiety, right? You're pulling from that more centered, heart-centered space, like you talked about, where you have the confidence and you just know there's no more wasting of the time trying to seek outside of yourself, right? Because you just know it internally.
Exactly. And that is when you really come into the understanding that your heart is this incredible GPS, is this incredible connection to your inner voice, and that it is truly the source of all creation, because then you're connected to the source of everything. Yeah. You're not to continually seek from the place of ego, right? You're remembering how to listen to your own voice within.
Yeah, completely. Before we wrap up, I want to talk just a little bit about, I know your book talks about the different plants that are available along our journey with healing. Can you touch on that for just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my specialty is working with essential oils, which are the most potent form of plant medicine. And they are these revolutionary remedies that we can literally in the moment shift our mood and feeling response. So let me a little bit before I go into the how of that. The why of that is because they are both biochemically active and vibrationally active, right? They contain constituents from a medicinal perspective, but also the vibrational patterning and the quintessence of the plant itself. And they are the most volatile, concentrated liquid aspects of the plant. That is why they are the most potent form of plant medicine. And my caveat to this, and we could go on about this for ages, but we're seeing the purest essential oil is imperative for it to have the level of not only benefit, but to honor the authenticity of production of true essential oils, pure and pure premium, even though every essential oil is going to say that, every oil company say that their oil is pure and premium, but know your source. So that's important caveat there, because when you're using the essential oil, because it has the effect of being able to pass through the blood-brain barrier, which as we know is rare, but because it is lipid, fat